guys, it's Cynthia. Welcome to my channel. So far I don't have any subscribers or anything like that, and that's okay. I'm hoping to, well, eventually maybe make some friends, maybe be able to help people, reaching out. I apologize for like the weird kind of background and the awful lighting, but my bird has been screaming in the living room for the past like 2 hours. He just won't stop. I've tried covering him. He's just a drama queen sometimes when I'm not giving him all my attention. So I'm going to tell you about college because that's kind of where my eating disorder started and where a lot of my mental health problems kind of came into light. So I went to school for art, as I mentioned in my last video, and it was fun. I liked it. I liked my classes, I liked some of my teachers, and you know, growing up I had always like, I was a little shit starter. I definitely was a bit of a troublemaker, but school was really important to me, which is why my parents still had a lot of respect for me despite the fact I was a bit of a little shit. And yeah, so I went to college, and it wasn't so much the classes. Like, the classes obviously don't really have anything to do with it. It was my living situation. So first year I was in residence. And instead of it being like one of those like apartment residences where like you have to sign people into your room and people really know, like the staff really know what you're doing, I was signed up for the more private residence that was in a townhouse with 5 other girls. You know, what could go wrong there? But so we had very little supervision. We could do whatever we wanted pretty much. And yeah, so it all started out okay. I had, like I said, 5 roommates, and I liked them at the start. One of them in particular, we were really close for the first while. We did have quite a bit in common. We were actually both in the same program. We became friends really quickly, and she was troubled. And I've always found myself really latched on to people who are troubled, I think because I really want to help people all the time because it makes me feel better about myself. And this girl actually had an eating disorder, and she was the first person that I knew closely who had one. And I didn't know anything about eating disorders really. Like, I knew they were a thing, but I had issues with myself. Like, I didn't like my nose, and I didn't like the shape of my mouth, and I didn't like the sun damage on my arms. And I thought, maybe I thought that my stomach, I wish it was a bit flatter, but that was the extent of my body image problems. But I met for the first time this girl who had such a big problem. In the year, like, there's no way that she didn't lose, like, she lost so much weight in that first year. She just shrank before my eyes, and she had a lot of problems with things like self-harm, and she was very depressed. She ended up being in the hospital at one point when she cut herself very badly. And I wrapped up her arm, and we took her to the hospital, and that really fucked me up, to be honest, because I actually really cared about her, and up until that point I actually had a lot of feelings for her. But then I was too afraid to have feelings of her because I didn't want to lose her, so I pushed her away. And I still spent the better part of the year, like I said, I tried to feed her, I tried to help her, I tried to do what I could. But then, I don't know how it all started, but all of a sudden everybody in my house, they didn't like me anymore. And that's when the bullying started. That's when my food was stolen. Like, people would take my ground beef out of the fridge and steal it or hide it or cook it or something. Never found it. Because I left a note on it saying, please don't put this in the freezer, because a lot of the time I'd leave meat in the fridge and it would go in the freezer. So I don't know what they did to it, but it was gone. And other things would go missing. Some jewelry went missing. I ended up telling my dad, and he actually wired me money so that for the last couple months of school I could just eat out all the time. And that kind of contributes to it a little bit, because before college, I had smoked weed for most of high school. I thought of myself as a rebel. And there's a way of smoking weed in Canada, well, here exactly, we call them poppers, where you mix tobacco and weed. And because it's unfiltered tobacco, it's more addictive than smoking cigarettes. Gives you a big head rush. It completely it takes your appetite away. It makes it so that all food just goes through your body really, really quickly. Definitely not healthy. So before college started, I had lost a lot of weight. I had always been about this size, but I was significantly lighter. But after all the bullying, and I was having so many problems with anxiety, and it got to the point where I was afraid to smoke weed because I was afraid of having panic attacks. I was afraid to smoke because I thought my heart was going to give out. And this was all completely irrational. I had no reason to think I was going to get sick, but I was afraid. So I quit everything all at once. I also did a lot of MDMA on the weekends, which is bad for your health, obviously. And did not help with my weight. So I lost even more weight in college. And then when I quit everything and I was eating all this junk food, and then when I moved out of residence and moved in with my boyfriend, I gained all the weight back, which is fine because this is the weight my body wants to be and it's where I'm at my healthiest. But I didn't take it very well, and for some reason I thought it would be a good idea to cut off all my hair, which made me really self-conscious, and especially I kind of felt like I was in this girl's shadow because I thought that she was the most beautiful girl that I had ever seen, and we did look alike, but she was prettier and she was thinner, and I couldn't control the fact that she had a prettier face than me and that her hair was better than mine, but I could control the fact that I was bigger than her. So after I had gained all the weight and I was just so anxious, I didn't leave my house for a month, and that's not even an exaggeration. I wasn't doing well, and I felt so out of control, and I decided that I was going to start trying to lose weight. And I had no intention of doing it healthily. I didn't want to do it healthily. I wanted to lose as much weight as I could, as fast as I could, so that by the time I got back to school and I had to see those people again, I wasn't that fat girl with a bad haircut that I thought I was at the time. And the moment that I started my first diet and the moment I felt that control, I completely lost myself. And that's kind of how it started. And some of the other factors is, I will not lie, I became fixated on this girl because I couldn't understand why she didn't side with me when I was being bullied. When my living situation was awful, she didn't side with me because she would have been picked on just as bad as me, and I was so angry. And I was so angry that she didn't care, and she always talked about how nobody ever did anything for her, and there I was, like, always trying to feed her, always trying to help her, and then eventually I just started pushing her away because I was hurt and I was angry. I had tried reaching out to her a couple of times after this year, and actually recently I did, because I think that I don't think that she gives two shits about me and what I do, but I do. I give a shit about her because of this effect that it's had. I'm not really sure why, but I also hold a lot of guilt because at one point, like I said, like before she hurt herself, we did have feelings for each other, but it scared me away, and I ended up being in a long-term relationship with one of her good friends. So that wasn't cool of me. And then at the time I didn't see it that way. I wasn't thinking of that. I was just thinking of like, oh, she wronged me. Why would she wrong me? Not actually realizing that I kind of did the same thing. And that's when I started realizing a pattern to do with being fixated on people, which I'm going to talk about compulsive tendency in another video. But that's kind of where that came out. My anxiety and panic attacks came out, where I realized how unstable my mood was, and when I kind of got grabbed by that eating disorder. And as it progressed, it just got worse and worse and worse, and all I could think about was food. And all I can think about even now is food. Even when I'm recovered, even when I'm healthy, all I can think about is food and about my body. And the more weight I lost, the more weight I wanted to lose. Like I remember thinking like, if I can get down to the weight I was when I went to college, like I'll be happy. And I did. And I didn't think I was thin enough, and I thought this needs to be a mistake. Maybe I didn't actually weigh myself. I must have been thinner, and I kept losing weight, and I kept losing weight, and it seemed like the smaller I got, the bigger I thought I was. And that was hard, and that's when I started getting heart palpitations and dizzy spells. I fainted at one point. I would feel so nauseous every single time I stood up so fast that I'd puke. And things started getting really bad. So that's where it started. And plus, being kind of like left to my own devices in my own home, it was really easy to control my diet. And that would not have flown with my parents if I was living at their house. They still, to this day, don't know that I had an eating disorder. They thought, I don't know what they thought, but they don't know that I was purposely not eating. And yeah, being kind of left alone. Like I lived with my boyfriend at the time, but it was really easy to make excuses. Like I blamed it completely on trying to be a vegetarian at first. And he noticed that there was something wrong eventually, but it was kind of too late at that point. Even the other day, like I said, I've relapsed a little bit. I've lost a couple of pounds, not too much, but he noticed right away. We were cuddling, and he grabbed my side, and he was immediately like, I can feel your ribs a little more than I used to the other day. Like, are you okay? And of course I like lied at the ears because I don't want anyone to know, because eating disorders are all about secrets. But anyways, that's how it started. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry if I bored you. But that is the beginnings of my story, and I will probably be uploading a video, at least one more before the weekend, because I won't be recording on weekends. So you guys have a lovely night. Feel free to drop me a message. Feel free to leave a comment, and thank you.